Thank you. I'm very nervous. So I would actually be more comfortable if this was a room in Rikers, on Rikers. So, but I've had the great privilege to stand with innumerable young people who, when they've nervously stood in front of a crowd to read their writing for the first time. So I'm going to try to embody their courage. And I actually, as soon as I was told I was going to be asked to give a speech, I thought I would read 2 poems to you of mine. So I cried inside only once, not for the girl who hung it up a month before Christmas, not for the girl who loved heroin so much she wrote it love poems, not for the girl who spent 365 days in the Bing, not for the girl who had to be escorted with shackles connecting her wrist to her waist to her ankles and mitts on her hands. Not for the girl who whispered Spanish poetry into a microphone in a jail gymnasium and curtsied when she was finished. Not for the girl whose grandma moved away and didn't leave a forwarding address. Not for the girl doped on mental meds who lifted her head occasionally to vomit a brilliant poem. Not for the girl I'd known on the street who begged me to take her home. Not for the girl who, not for the girl who hand-copied the poems I gave her and mailed them to her little brother. Not for the woman disfigured by fire who made drawings like photographs and jumped when I came up behind her. Not for the girl with my father's name who could not pronounce the crime she'd been convicted of. Not for the girl who slept with a teddy bear she made from a Rikers bedsheet. Not for the girl who's been inside half a decade and is still waiting for her first visit. Not for the woman my mother's age who asks me not to hug her when the guards are watching. Not for the girl who wrote the best poem I've ever read. Not for the girl who was sold for crack at age 9 and asked me if she was still a virgin. Not for the girl who couldn't find New York on a map. Not for the woman who told me she had her first good night's sleep in prison. Not for the pregnant girl I slipped apple Jolly Ranchers to on the low. And not for the girl with the sentence longer than the years I've been alive. I cried inside only once, not for any one of the girls, the women, but for all of us. Not for these places I've been, the people I've met, or the stories I've heard. No, I cried messy, inappropriate tears for the things that are too beautiful or too shameful to say. Kind of intense dinner. So I did start out working on Rikers, and then kind of where I guess I cut my teeth. And I spent about 10 years working there, and then I've had the great opportunity to work in many others, in a lot of other correctional settings. And then to grow Voices UnBroken, to also work with young people who've been removed from their homes and are in the foster care system. And so a lot of times when I'm asked to speak about the organization's work, it's to people, I feel like I have to defend the kids that we work with, because not everybody believes in them and believes in their best. And so I've had the privilege to speak a number of times to people who are studying social work or who want to do this kind of work. And so I wrote the second poem for them. Youth work, or despite what Hollywood movies and prime time made for TV specials promise, there probably will not be any grand gestures. 1. It is unlikely that a child who has been abused, abandoned, neglected, negated, traumatized, tortured, half-loved, wholly hurt, will collapse weeping into your arms, searching for solace. Instead, there might be a time when a child will cry rare, raw, overdue tears right there in front of you. And no matter how much training and experience you've had, no matter how desperately you want to say and do just the right thing, you will be uncomfortable, unprepared, unsure. You will likely make an unsatisfying gesture and stumble on some clumsily worded statements that you'll wish you could have written down first. There is just no right thing to say when a child has been done all wrong. 2, you will want the children who have been abused, abandoned, neglected, negated, traumatized, tortured, half-loved, wholly hurt to recognize how different you are, how much you want to help. You will want them to give you the benefit of the doubt. And even knowing that these are unrealistic expectations won't make it easier when there are justifiably angry children with fierce attitudes and unpleasant dispositions who will lash out at you in the same ways they have been lashed out at. Or scared, restless children who have had every tender place violated and have retreated to a space you'll never reach and they don't really want you in anyway. Or broken-hearted children whose wounds are so familiar and perhaps are so fresh and perhaps so familiar that you will be tempted to turn away from them or rest your own story at their feet in a way that would likely do more harm than good. Or the children who are no different from any other children, except that despite all of your patience and compassion, you simply don't like them. Are maybe even disturbed, disgusted by them, though you never use these words or admit to this strong a distaste. You will look inside yourself for stubborn feelings of love that are greater than any you knew you were capable of. But some days it will just be a job, they will just be children, and you will just be the perfectly flawed, well-intentioned grown-up you are. 3. Children who have been abused, abandoned, neglected, negated, traumatized, tortured, half-loved, wholly hurt, don't want Hollywood heroines or terrifically talented teachers. They don't want your carefully chosen words or hugs meant to heal all of the hurt. They want the things that were stolen, broken, lost. They want something more than any one of us can ever give them. They want not to have ever been abused, abandoned, neglected, negated, traumatized, tortured, half-loved, wholly hurt in the first place. They want to be appreciated, accepted, noticed, nurtured, taken care of, treasured, loved. We all want to be whole. Thank you. I really don't think I've ever been this nervous. So as I told some of you earlier, when I walk into a room, I have this habit of thinking, would the young people that I work with be welcomed here? And a lot of the time, I understand that even though the young people that I work with and I come from the same community and in many ways are from the same place, there are certain privileges I've had that are different. And I understand sometimes I walk in a room and I'm welcome and they might walk in the same room and not be. And it's such an honor to every single person I've met who's affiliated with the Petra Foundation. I have felt like our individual people and make up a community that would welcome them. So the young people I work with can't be with us, but I have a feeling that if they walked in the room, people would get up to give them their seat. And it's such an extreme, it's a pleasure to meet all of you and to get to know you a little bit and now to be part of this community. So thank you so much.